Squish it, see how it squishes. Good morning all. This video is how to change the wheel bearings on your dirt bike. This is specifically the rear wheel off a Beta cross dresser. There's my rotor obviously. There's my sprocket. If you don't know what these are, get someone else to do this job for you. Let's have a look at this wheel. Right, inside here is one wheel bearing, and then there's a sleeve, and inside here is the other wheel bearing and the other end of the sleeve. It's a pretty simple job. It might be different on your bike. Like I say, this is a Beta specific bike, 2016 model, or 2016, and it's quite simple really. You've got a circlip here. Crimp it, you can use circlip pliers, I've got a pair, or you could use needle nose pliers, or you could try and fudge it some other way, but it might damage it. That will give then the ability for this bearing to come out. Hopefully, it's been in there a while, hopefully it will come out with not too much trouble. I have got a gas burner, but it's not flipping working very well because it's been in the garden for so long. I've got my bearings in the freezer. The concept behind that is that when you freeze metal, it shrinks in size. When you heat metal, it expands in size. So if I heat this hub here, well, that should expand, and then the bearing should be smaller because it's contracted because it's cold, should slot straight in. But first things first is let's get that circlip out, and then we're going to knock the bearings out. What I'm going to try and do is get the circlip out, spring that out, and then from the other side I'm going to try and bang this bearing this way. Hopefully I'll better get a pipe, something on the edge of it, and get it out with any luck. But this is arguably the hardest part, is getting the actual bearings out. Getting the new ones in, as long as everything's clean, should be alright. So that's my circlip pliers, into little holes, give it a squeeze, out it pops. Now, I didn't mention this, last night I gave it a soaking of fast release on one way from Plus Gas, and then this morning I flipped it over, gave it another coating on this side, see if it's loose at all. So try and knock out the one that's got the release, the bearing on it, sorry, the circlip on it. That does not want to come out of there. Alright. See if we can get this sodden thing to power up to fire. I gave it a wee bit of fire. Oh, hello. Easy as that. I picked that up not even thinking whether it was hot or not. It's not, because I only gave it a little bit of heat, but that was just enough to get it going. You can see, look at the state of that. Obviously water and sand and all kinds of shit gets in behind it. And that is the old bearing race. Apart from my hammering, it doesn't actually look that bad, does it? Surprised at how little heat that needed. Right, let's try and get that sucker out now. It's not had any heat, so we're just going to give it a tappy tap. That bearing is a lot worse. I can feel the inner ring just flopping around. Okay, let's get a little bit of fire on this one too. Problem is with this, I left it out in the garden for ages. Yeah, just left it out in the garden for too long. What you've got to be careful of is these hubs are aluminium, so don't leave the fire on there too long, because otherwise it'll melt. Or it'll go soft, and then when you whack it with a hammer, it will damage your hub. That's one side gone. No, it's not. Okay, I'm slightly concerned that my flexible top is taking some of the sting out of my hits, so I've put it onto 2 wooden blocks and I'm going to hit it from now. That was bound to happen. Et voila, the bearing is out. And there it is. Absolutely smashed to pieces. Look at the state of that. Oof. So you can't see inside this one because the cover hasn't popped out like it has on the other one, but you can quite clearly see how bad that is. The bearings are completely smashed to pieces. Right, that's the bearings out. Now I've got to give this hub a clean because you can see all that crap in there, and the bearing won't sit right or go in if it's full of crap. You don't need to see me cleaning. Make sure it's spotless. It's completely irrelevant whilst cleaning this tube out. I used some brake cleaner, which I bought the other day from Sports Bike Shop, Milton Keynes, the Oxford Mint one. Oh my god, it smells wicked. Get you some of that. Right, so the next job is grease. Now, there's so many different opinions on grease. If you put a load of grease in, then water can't get in, right? But also, water does break down grease, so if the water does get in, it makes it into a shitty mess. But if the water will mix with it and absorb some of it, maybe that's good. It does create a grinding paste, but as you've seen, I don't know who did the previous bearings and they were fucked anyway. So my theory is it's going to be easier to get in if it's greased. They include grease in the pack, so use grease. I'm using comma grease because I've had it for ages. I use it for automatic gates and stuff, because that's one of the jobs I do. So that is now greased. That greasy finger in the hole. That'll be now ready for that bearing that is freezing in the freezer. Just giving the hub a quick go of some heat. I've got my bearing here, which is freezing cold because it's been in the freezer. I'm going to put a bit of grease around the bearing. They're not directional, so don't worry about that. You can't get it wrong. Well, unless you put it in that way. Get your bearing, pop it into your hole. I'm going to put some tissue over it. I'm going to put a bit of wood on it, and I'm going to tap it with my club hammer. Pop that off and have a look. That's going in nicely. That's in as flat as that will go. And then just work it around. Okay, so just shift it around in the hole slightly, keep it up against the edge. I'll come up with all the best ideas in the ghetto garage. You'll hear that tone change. I don't know if you can hear that. That's now changed because it's not got any air behind it. It's going metal to metal. That's one done. Now it's time to repeat the process for this one. I've just put a little bit of heat on that hub and then realised that I hadn't actually greased it, so hopefully I won't set my finger on fire here. I've already greased the tube. No point in greasing the outside because there's nothing on it on the inside. There's no moving parts, only the inside where the axle goes. And the only reason I'm greasing it is to make it easier going in and going out. It's not necessarily a moving part. That's my tube down. Where's my other bearing? Oh, it's in my kangaroo pouch. So I've just gone and got this one out of the freezer. Don't get them both out of the freezer at the same time if you're not prepared to do them at the same time, because it will lose its coldness. Again, it's not directional. Oh, it's freezing. Just pop it onto your hole. Oh no, put a bit of grease around this one too. They do give you grease in the pack, but didn't look like enough to do both and the tube, so I figured I'd get my grease out. There we go. Pop that in the hole. My wife can clean my fingers off. Put my bit of tissue over it and my whacker. like it. It's going, it's not going straight though. Come on, little sod. Don't feel like that's going at all. That feels better. We're now flush. Once we get flush, we swap over to our socket. Hear that dead sound? That's dead. Yeah. Still dead, no ting. Oh, it's starting to get a ting now. That's it, you hear that? It's changed. That's that done. Where's the circlip? Bit of grease on the clip. Which, to be honest, I could have done with changing that because that's rusty, but first time changing wheel bearings, so I'll know better for next time. Squish it, see how it squishes. All right. Now I'll just drop that in dirt, so give that a quick clean off because the grease will pick up the dirt. And obviously it's going to sit on the centre because it's a dirt bike, but we don't want it sitting in the channel. A little bit of grease on there. This time, squeeze it when it's out the hole. Wow, that's a lot of compression. And I guess that's it. Wheel bearing's done. Lovely job. Stick a bit of grease in here on the inside of these bearings for when we put the axle through. We'll do the other side for when it pops out. And I would say give it a good liberal coating all around the bearing just to repel the water as that tries to get in there. And then all we'll do is clean off the outer surface afterwards. I mean, even if nothing else, the grease will protect it from rust. And we don't want rust, do we? So, if you have any questions, call your local motorbike shop. Don't call me, because as you can see, first time I've done it, I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm pretty good at making it up as I go though. As usual, thanks for watching guys. See you in the next one. Smell you later, you bunch of losers.